I'm glad you're tuning in today because we're going to talk about something that's often avoided in polite conversation. But it's an important topic that deserves our attention. We're going to dive into the impact of pornography on male sexuality and relationships. This is going to be an honest conversation between us, and I hope it will help you navigate the world of sexuality in a healthy way. So, let's get into it. Part 1. The prevalence of pornography. We live in a world where pornography is everywhere. It's easily accessible on the internet, and it's often marketed as harmless entertainment. In fact, a recent survey found that 63% of men between the ages of 18 to 30 watch porn at least once a week. That's a huge number. It tells us that pornography is a part of many men's lives. But what does this mean for us? Well, for starters, it means that we're bombarded with images of sexual acts and people who are performing them. These images can create unrealistic expectations and put pressure on us to perform like the actors we see on screen. It can also make us feel like we're not good enough, or that our own bodies are not attractive. This can be damaging to our self-esteem and our confidence. Part 2. The effects of pornography on male sexuality. But it's not just our self-esteem that's affected by pornography. Our sexuality can be impacted as well. Studies have shown that excessive porn consumption can lead to erectile dysfunction, decreased libido, and desensitization to sexual stimuli. This means that it can be harder to achieve and maintain an erection, and it can take more stimulation to get us aroused. Let me explain this a little further. When we watch porn, we're being exposed to an intense and overwhelming amount of sexual stimulation. This can be exciting and pleasurable in the moment, but it can also desensitize us to sexual stimuli in the real world. In other words, we may find it hard to become aroused by real-life sexual encounters because we've become accustomed to the extreme and unrealistic scenarios we see in pornography. Part 3. The objectification of women in pornography. One important aspect of pornography that often gets overlooked is the objectification of women. Many pornographic films and images depict women in a degrading and disrespectful way, reducing them to mere objects for male pleasure. This can be harmful not only to the women in the videos, but also to the men who consume them. It can reinforce negative stereotypes and attitudes towards women, leading to a lack of respect and empathy for them in real life. As men, we have a responsibility to recognize and challenge the objectification of women in pornography. We need to actively seek out ethical and consensual forms of sexual expression that promote mutual respect and pleasure for all parties involved. By doing so, we can not only improve our own mind and relationships, but also contribute to a culture of healthy and respectful sexual expression. Part 4. The effects of pornography on relationships. But it's not just our own bodies that are impacted by porn. Our relationships can suffer as well. Pornography can create unrealistic expectations and put pressure on our partners to perform like the actors we see on screen. This can be especially damaging in relationships where one partner watches porn and the other does not. It can also lead to feelings of insecurity and jealousy, which can be toxic for any relationship. It's important to remember that relationships are built on trust and intimacy. If we're constantly consuming porn and putting pressure on our partners to perform like the actors we see on screen, we're not re-engaging with our partners in a meaningful way. We're not building a true emotional connection, and we're not exploring our own sexuality in a healthy way. Part 5. Breaking the cycle. So, what can we do about it? Well, the first step is to acknowledge that porn consumption can have negative effects on our lives. We need to take responsibility for our own behavior and make conscious choices about when and how we consume pornography. It's important to recognize that we're not going to be perfect all the time. We're going to slip up and watch porn when we shouldn't. But the key is to be mindful of our behavior and to make an effort to change it. We need to find healthy outlets for sexual energy, whether that's through exercise, meditation, or connecting with our partners. Another important step is to communicate openly. and honestly with our partners about our feelings and desires. We need to listen to our partners and make an effort to understand their needs and wants. This can help us build trust and intimacy in our relationships and create a space where we feel safe to explore our own sexuality. It's also important to remember that porn is not the only way to experience sexual pleasure. We can explore our own bodies and engage in sexual activities with our partners that are more focused on intimacy and connection rather than performance. Lastly, we need to recognize that there is a difference between healthy sexual expression and addiction. If we feel like we're unable to control our porn consumption or if it's interfering with our daily lives, it may be time to seek professional help. Addiction is a serious issue that requires support and treatment, and there's no shame in asking for help. So, here you have it, little bro. We've talked about the impact of pornography on male sexuality and relationships. But we've discussed some ways to break the cycle and engage in healthy sexual expression. Remember, sexuality is a natural and beautiful part of life, but it's important to approach it with mindfulness and respect for ourselves and our partners. I hope this conversation has been helpful for you, and I look forward to continuing this journey together.